In this section, we will look at how to use a stopper to transition across the river. This might be to navigate a pair of gates such as a down to down or down to up, where one gate is situated above and at one end of the stopper and the second below and at the other. We'll identify the four most common approaches and their strengths and weaknesses. The technique an athlete chooses may in part be due to the shape and angle of the stopper, but in theory, if it's square across the river, the drop into it isn't too steep, it possesses a reasonable eddy on top and a curl on either end, then all four techniques should be possible. Although the four headings used maybe aren't universally recognised, they offer a good descriptor and help differentiate between the techniques. It isn't uncommon to observe a top athlete using a blend of these. This is possibly the easiest and most consistent but slowest of the techniques. Its execution relies on the athlete dropping the whole boat onto one end of the stopper before bouncing along it to pull themselves off the other end. If the athlete is confident in crossing it, it's generally the most reliable, assuming the stopper isn't too big, but it is slow. The ideal setting to practice this competence is by using a stopper that sits square across the river, the drop into it isn't too steep, it has a reasonable eddy on top and preferably a curl on either end. The further accurate positioning of two gates, one situated a few metres above one end of the stopper, with the second, an up or a down, situated a few metres below the opposite end, will create a more authentic setting and guide the boat's movement and path. The lead gate should be positioned so the athlete is forced to make the essential movement across the river. From a safety perspective, it is essential to know in advance that any stopper utilised for this type of practice can be exited before engaging with it. From a technical perspective, this technique can be made quicker by ensuring the boat is moving in the desired direction, e.g. the path between the two gates, before landing in the stopper, and on connection with the stopper, the athlete sits up and keeps the boat relatively flat, as well as triggering a strong downstream stroke to create further movement. A faster but more challenging variant of the trundle is to drop the tail of the boat onto the stopper first so that the boat is at approximately 45 degrees. This approach on connection projects the boat forward, maintaining the speed, and can protect the bow from being washed downstream if this is necessary. It is particularly effective when the water flowing onto the stopper does so down a gentle gradient. So now let's have another look at that in its entirety.